And what is going on, Devils fans? It is, as always, your host, your best friend, your confidant, and your number one source, Neil Villapiano. And welcome to another edition of the Devil's State of Mind podcast, right here on the Hockey Podcast Network, as well as Sports Wire Radio, the best place to get everything you need to know about your bouncing back New Jersey Devils. And as always, Devils fans, hope you're having a fantastic day wherever you're checking out this podcast episode. And thank you guys, as always, for taking time out of your day to check these episodes out. Really do appreciate all the support that I continue to get from you guys. Thank you. Thank you very much. Really quickly, shout out to our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook, official sports betting partner of THPN and the National Hockey League. And as always, hockey fans, if you bet just $5, if your bet wins, you get $300 instantly in risk-free bets. And all you have to do is sign up with our promo code THPN to get in on it. That is code THPN, bet $5. And if your bet wins, you get $300 instantly in risk-free bets, courtesy of our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. As always, Devils fans and hockey fans out there, make sure to bet responsibly. Before I jump into our episode today, going to be mainly recapping the Devils' 2 wins at home this past week. We're also going to talk a little bit about Dougie Hamilton because, unfortunately, it wouldn't be a Devils win without somebody getting banged up in one of these games. And then last but certainly not least, we will, as we normally do, look ahead to this upcoming week, which includes the beginning of a fairly long road trip after tonight's home game against the New York Islanders. But again, before I jump into that, did want to announce here on the podcast, I already announced it numerous times over on social media, but finally, thanks to my friends over at Almariso Designs, Devil State of Mind podcast has official merchandise. Yes, you can check it over again on Armo Riso Designs. I'll put a link to it in the description here on YouTube. It's also on all of my social media platforms. You can get yourself a t-shirt, you can get yourself a sweatshirt, a long sleeve shirt, or you can get yourself even a Devil State of Mind koozie. And that is absolutely awesome. I'm so excited to finally have some podcast merch out there for you guys. I know I've had a lot of people over the last many weeks and obviously last couple of years asking me, Neil, when are we going to get some merch? When are we going to get some merch? Well, we finally do. Armorista Designs is also my friends from the Rangers Ed podcast, which we've had here. We've had them come on. I've been on their podcast numerous times. Make sure to go check them out as well. They are the realest of real New York Ranger fans, giving you the best content over there for obviously a struggling New York Ranger team, particularly at home. But nonetheless, through thick and thin, they give you guys the best coverage. So make sure you guys go check them out. They are really great friends of mine, and they did me a huge favor here, helping me get some podcast merch. So again, make sure to go get your own Devil State of Mind merch and represent your favorite New Jersey Devils podcast out and about. So again, thank you so much to them. Really do appreciate it a lot. So now that we've gotten beyond that, again, just going to recap the last 2 Devils games at home against Montreal and then at home on Saturday afternoon. I was in attendance for that one against the Pittsburgh Penguins. We'll talk a little bit about Dougie Hamilton, like I said. And then last but certainly not least, we are going to look ahead to not just the games this week, but just the overall road trip that is coming up, because it's a pretty long one here as we enter into the middle part of the month of October. So, as always, Devils fans, we got a bunch to get to here on the Devil State of Mind podcast. So let's not waste any more time and get rolling. And we will get rolling and drop the puck with, again, starting with the recap against the Montreal Canadiens. This was a big one, right? Because the Devils were coming off a really struggled 4-game West Coast road trip, dropping 3 out of 4, their first kind of adversity of the year. Again, dealing with some more injuries, including now with Connor Brown being out and the aforementioned Dougie Hamilton. But this happened, Dougie Hamilton injury happened during the game against Montreal, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But the Devils knew that they needed to get themselves a bounce back game, and they were going up against the Montreal Canadiens, who have been one of the bigger surprises early on in the season, been doing really well early on. This was a battle also of whoever won this game would be the first team in the NHL to reach 10 points, 10 wins, excuse me. So you knew that this was going to be a big one for sure. Devils also looking to try to continue their undefeated stretch at home. Their last home game prior to this game against Montreal was that overtime win prior to the West Coast road trip against the Colorado Avalanche a couple weeks ago. So a lot of storylines here. At the time, two of the top goal scorers in the league, and Jack Hughes and Cole Caulfield going at it. Arseny Grutsia going up against his former teammate Ivan Demidov. Lot of different storylines going into this one. And it was an exciting back and forth game with a lot of drama, but it was all when it was all said and done, the Devils were able to come away with the come from behind 4-3 win at home against the Canadiens in this one, as the Devils became the first team in the NHL and one of the few so far to reach double-digit wins, and we're not even at the midway point of November. Let's start with Cody Glass. He finally came back into the lineup after missing the last couple of games with a lower body injury. He got the party started just a minute 53 into the game with a wrist shot past the glove side of goaltender Jakub Dobish and gave the Devils the early lead, but it did not last very long, as just 66 seconds later, Kirby Dach ties the game on an absolutely strange and weird goal that hit off of Andre Palat, then off of Kirby Dach, popped up into the air, and ended up in the back of the net. Can't blame anybody for that one. The Canadiens didn't even realize where the puck was until they saw it in the back of the net. Very strange goal. Frustrating goal to give up. Nonetheless, tied the game at 1. That's where we were until about a little bit before the midway point of the second period, when Shimon Nemec made a beautiful pass from behind the net right in front to Andre Palat, who was able to bury it. And Palat finally, as Sheldon Keefe put it, got off the schneid and got himself his first goal of the season. And that gave the Devils the 2-1 lead heading into the third period. And that's where things got really interesting. It started with, as you can see, Jake Evans tying the game on, honestly, again, a goal that Jacob Markstrom would probably want back. Should have made the save. Nonetheless, it found its way through. And then after the Devils were able to get themselves to their 5th power play opportunity, and they did not convert as they went 0 for 5 in this one, Oliver Kapanen on a rebound was able, on the backhand, was able to give the Canadiens the 3-2 lead a little over halfway through the third period. And it seemed all but lost. It felt like the kind of game that we have seen in years past, where the Devils just kind of choke it away in the third, and they end up dropping what really needed to be an important win. But the Devils kept fighting, and with the net empty, a scramble in front of the net after Jack Hughes threw the puck at the front, Timo Meier roofs one top shelf, beating Jakub Dobish, and ties the game at 3 with just a little over a minute to go in the third period. And that was absolutely awesome. A big time goal, forced overtime. And then when we got to overtime, a little more than 90 seconds into it, Alex Newhook was basically by himself coming into the offensive zone, being hounded by 3 different Devils players. Not really sure exactly what he was trying to accomplish there, but he ends up turning over the puck. Jesper Bratt intercepts, goes off on a breakaway, goes from his forehand to his backhand through the legs of Dobish, and the Devils come back to win the game in overtime, 4-3, on Jesper Bratt's 5th goal of the year. And it was a big one, as the Devils win their 2nd consecutive overtime game and 2nd consecutive overtime win at home, as it pushes their undefeated record at home to 6-0-0. And that was a big one. And I will just say this, that in many years past, that kind of game the Devils would lose. And I think it's so important for this team to find ways to win those games, especially in the early going here. And it really kind of shows a lot more of this Devils team maturing a little bit more, finding different ways to win, and just pushing through that adversity and still coming away victorious. And that is really hopeful for this team moving forward. And again, with that win, the Devils, first team in the NHL to get to 10 wins. Jacob Markstrom, who only saw 19 shots, it wasn't great. He did make a couple of good saves, including that two save opportunity by Cole Caulfield on that breakaway in the first period. Made two big saves to deny him there, but still not his best effort. But he got the win. And so he's now won each of his last two games, which is honestly really important for him, as he's won two of his three games since returning from injury. Want to see him continue to get better. At the time of this recording, it looks like Markstrom will be in net tonight versus the New York Islanders. So another opportunity for him to get himself another good performance and ultimately help this Devils team get a win. But backtracking to this one, an important win nonetheless. Now, lastly, here before we move on to our next thing, I wanted to give some props to the Montreal Canadiens goaltender Jakub Dobeš, who after the game, he was literally in tears talking to the media as he was visibly upset that he could not deliver the win for this team. And it looked like he was going to find a way too. And we have to keep in mind, he was 6-0-0 going into this game, had not lost the game yet this season, was the hottest goaltender in the league going into this one. But the Devils were able to hand him his first loss. Again, still got a point, so he's still yet to lose a game in regulation as far as I know. I don't know if he's played another game since, but nonetheless, really what it stands out to me is that it shows how much he cares and how much he badly wanted to get that win. And I'm sure he's putting a lot of pressure on himself and a lot of blame on himself for not getting it done. But nonetheless, it is a team effort. It wasn't just on Dobeš in that one. But I do want to give my stick taps to him because I really thought he played a very strong game, made a lot of really, really good saves to frustrate the Devils in a game where, honestly, at times they could have easily ran away with this one. It was way closer than it needed to be, but nonetheless, a win is a win. But I just wanted to give my stick taps to Jakub Dobeš there on a great game. And we are definitely going to end up seeing that kid more down the road here, not just in the regular season, but maybe even in the playoffs this year and moving forward. So just wanted to bring that up. Now, as I mentioned before, it wouldn't be a Devils recap without me having to tell you that someone got hurt in this one. And someone did unfortunately get hurt, and that happened to be Dougie Hamilton, who at some point during the second period, and I saw the clip that everybody's referring to, he was up against the wall, didn't really look like much of anything, skated back to the bench, but never returned. And the Devils definitely missed his presence because they went 0 for 5 on the power play, and that is not good. It is not good. Devils power play is not the same when Dougie Hamilton is not out there. He did not return to that game, and we weren't really sure what was going to happen with him. But on the morning prior to the Devils game at 12:30 on Saturday afternoon against the Pittsburgh Penguins, Sheldon Keefe reported to the media that Dougie Hamilton is out at least 1 week with a lower body injury, as it reads here. He said minor injury. It will probably a minimum of a week for him. And then from that point, it will just be a matter of how he's feeling in terms of when he will come back. That is what Sheldon Keefe said in that one. Colton White, who did play in the game against Pittsburgh, will be in for him as his replacement for the time being. So, yeah, again, you just have to you get numb to it, right? You just get numb to the fact that the Devils just continue to deal with injuries. Whether minor, major, whatever the case may be, it's frustrating. And it's more frustrating when it feels like, one guy comes in, another guy comes out, right? Cody Glass comes back into the lineup. It looked like Connor Brown was also going to be coming back into the lineup because he was practicing the day before the game against Montreal, but hasn't practiced since. And even now at the time of this recording, he is still not ready to come back. And I don't really know why that is. I'm really kind of curious as to how he went from looking like he was rare and ready to go to now he's not. Zach McEwen, on the other hand, will make his return to the Devils lineup after getting injured in his first and only game so far this year in that first win of the season in Tampa Bay against the Lightning back in October. So he will be back in the lineup tonight. So the Devils, again, one player gets hurt, at least someone else comes back into the lineup. But going back to Dougie Hamilton, yeah, it's frustrating, but it is minor. And you knock on wood, you really hope that it is just seriously a minor injury and it's not something that lingers on and on for many more days and maybe even many more weeks to come. Again, frustrating no matter what the situation is. So the Devils will be without Dougie Hamilton for a little bit of time. Did not play against Pittsburgh. Will not play against the New York Islanders tonight. I would probably expect him to come back. If we're going to go off of just a week, I would expect him to be back next Saturday night in Washington against the Capitals. That would probably be the best guess in terms of that. Don't see him coming back to play Chicago on Wednesday, but you never know. Things could change. But they said at minimum a week. So if we're going off of that, again, a week will make it next Thursday or Friday, or not next, but this Thursday or Friday, the 13th or 14th. So we shall see. But yes, unfortunately, the Devils will be without one of their top defensemen as they continue to be fairly depleted on the back end, which is really, really frustrating. But again, just like with Colton White and with other guys, it's just next minute mentality, right? That's what it all comes down to. And we'll see how these guys can hold their own here during this time as we slowly but surely try to get healthy again. All right. So before we continue on here with our recap and recapping the win against the Pittsburgh Penguins, I want to take another moment here to give another shout out to our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Devils fans, hockey is back. And this season, DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, brings you all the speed, skill, and nonstop action you love. DraftKings Sportsbook delivers the unmatched intensity of the NHL right to your fingertips. From player props to the thrill of live in-game betting, every drop of the puck is your shot to win big. And as I always say to you guys, if you're just getting into sports betting, you could do something as simple as picking who you think is going to win the game. You could also go with how many total goals are going to be scored. You can pick if a certain player is going to score a goal or get a certain amount of points. You can do simple things like that to get in on these money prizes. And DraftKings Sportsbook is the number one destination to do that. And guys, new customers, this one is particularly for you. Again, bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get paid out in $300 in risk-free bet money. It is absolutely the perfect offer for someone just getting into the sports betting world. I use DraftKings Sportsbook all the time for my sports betting, and you guys should absolutely do the same. And to light the lamp all season long with DraftKings, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets in your bet wins in partnership with DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Blue Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. Pass-through of per wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gambling resources, see DraftKings.com/audio. Limited time offer. Copyright NHL 2025. All rights reserved. All right, so now let's shift over to the second game of this past week, which was an afternoon showdown with the surprising Pittsburgh Penguins, who have really come out the gate strong. And not surprising at all, Sidney Crosby having a dominant season so far, one of the top goal scorers in the league. And you knew the Devils had to get going right away in this one. You knew it was going to be a tough battle. This is a very strong defensive team that the Devils were facing in this one with Pittsburgh. And again, especially in the early going here, you're going up against your division opponents. You want to try to win as many of these games as possible to have those advantages on the tiebreakers if things get really close down the stretch. And you want to prove that you can hang with your own division, and that's the most important thing. And so the Devils, despite not playing all that well, I mean, they really look sluggish for the most part in this one. Nonetheless, they came away with the important win at home in the shootout as they win this one 2-1 in the shootout. And the Devils, as it says here, remain undefeated at home. Jake Allen got the start in this one. He had lost each of his last 2 games. I know I got a lot of flack for my last article on Pucks and Pitchforks talking about what might be down with the struggles of Jake Allen of late. Again, if you read the article, you'll understand that I wasn't putting the full blame on Jake Allen and that the defense in front of him hasn't been good. Was better in this one. Both factors were much better in this one. Jake Allen, in many ways, stood on his head, really giving the Devils the chance to win this one, stopping 33 of the 34 shots he faced, including saving both attempts that the Penguins had in the shootout, including denying Sidney Crosby in the second round to ultimately win the game. And yes, this was a messy game. And that kind of shows you what happens in a lot of these day games where both teams in one capacity or another are not playing at their best, and it's just sloppy. And this is what we saw in this one. But the Devils were able to strike first thanks to a great individual play from Arseny Grutsyuk, who stole the puck away in the defensive zone from Chris Letang, and then he roofed it top shelf, beating Artis Shilovs to give the Devils the 1-0 lead after one period of play. And then things again kind of slowed down, but the Penguins started to push. And then Ryan Graves, the former Devils defenseman who has struggled mightily since he got to the Penguins, scores his first goal of the season, courtesy of the face of Andre Palat. For the second consecutive game, Andre Palat has a goal scored against him, courtesy of his head or facial area. Hit him in the face, head area, and ended up in the net. Another weird, strange goal, but a goal nonetheless. And that tied the game up at 1. And that's where we stood for the majority of the rest of this game. In the third period, though, in the third period, Nico Hischier had a diving block that got him up high, but he stopped it nonetheless, was slow to get up, made his way to the bench, went down the tunnel, but did come back after a couple of minutes and played the rest of the game. Didn't need stitches. I think he just got his bell rung, but nonetheless, absolute warrior move by our captain, Nico Hischier, in that one. Phenomenal block. Love to see it from him. This game ended up going to overtime. Both teams had a couple of chances to ultimately score in the overtime, but both goaltenders, Jake Allen and Artis Shilovs, stood on their head. Shilovs, by the way, earlier in this game, made a cross-crease diving glove save to rob Jack Hughes of the go-ahead goal in the third period. Want to give stick taps to him because that was a phenomenal save. But my favorite moment, even though it didn't result in a goal, my favorite moment of this game was in the dying seconds of overtime. The Penguins were looking to come into the zone with a 2-on-1 chance to maybe get a goal late. But Shimon Nemec, with a diving stick clear of the puck, is able to get it out of the zone, and it comes to the stick of Jack Hughes, who, with just seconds as the clock was expiring, took a slap shot trying to beat Shilovs, but he made the save, and the game had to go to the shootout. But it was a great play defensively by Shimon Nemec, who has really played a lot better in the last two games after coming off a rough road trip. So I want to give him props that he really stood up when he needed to. Then we go to the shootout. Paul Cotter starts off with a nice goal from his backhand to his forehand, hit off the pad of Shilov, but it ended up in the net anyway. And the Devils struck first. Brian Rust's shot was denied on the left leg pad of Jake Allen. We go to the second round, and the beautiful, nasty goal from Jesper Bratt, which we've seen many times before in the shootout, goes from his backhand to his forehand, beats the goaltender Shilovs, and gives the Devils the 2-0 lead in the shootout. And then, as mentioned before, Sidney Crosby coming in, tried to fake him out with the left leg lift. He went to the backhand while Jake Allen was down, but he made the diving left leg pad save, and the Devils win the game in the shootout 2-0 and win the game overall 2-1. And the Devils' home winning streak record now goes to a perfect 7-0 after this one. And the Devils now are 11-4-0 on the season with 22 points, first in the Metropolitan Division, first in the Eastern Conference, currently in second place and tied for second in the NHL. But really what I loved from the Devils this last couple of games is that, again, they at times did not play their best, But ultimately, they still found ways to win. And they have now won 3 straight games that needed extra hockey with overtime wins against Colorado and Montreal, and then this shootout win against the Penguins. And look, we know that the Devils are usually very big struggles when it comes to the shootout. So even finding ways to win in the shootout and win fairly convincingly, scoring twice and Jake Allen making both saves is just great. It's just absolutely great. And you go from losing 3 out of 4 on that West Coast road trip to then getting back-to-back wins, at home. And so now the Devils will look for their second 3-game winning streak with this game tonight at home against the New York Islanders. But again, just to put a bow on this or to put a pitchfork in this, as Don LaGreca would say, just a really, really solid week. This is now, I think, the third week already of the season in which the Devils won every game that they played. And granted, it was only 2 games, but nonetheless, they were 2 important wins for this team. And that was really, really great to see. So, lastly, here, let's look to the week ahead. I'm going to look beyond the week because, again, as I mentioned, after tonight's game against the New York Islanders, the Devils will begin a 5-game road trip. So, they will certainly be away from the Rock, a place that they have made it a fortress to play at over this entire season. They will once again be on the road. So, again, Devils tonight, puck drop 7:08 p.m. Eastern on MSG and MSG2 at home against the New York Islanders. Really excited to see Matthew Schaefer, playing this full game. Want to see what he could do against this Devils team. But another opportunity for the Devils to look for their 8th win already at home and try to sweep this 3-game homestand. Then 2 days from now, the Devils will be in the Windy City to take on the Chicago Blackhawks, who have really, really stepped it up of late. I was actually just on the Hockey Princess podcast this past weekend. She covers the Chicago Blackhawks and Rockford Ice Dogs, and I think that episode will be coming out soon. But just wanted to shout her out as well. Really enjoyed, as always, talking to her. That game will be at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. 8:30 p.m. local time in Chicago, but that game will actually also be on TNT. So we get ourselves just our second nationally televised game of the year, second or third. I think it's third now, if I'm not mistaken. No, it's second. Nationally televised game, and that's the first game of the road trip. And the last game of this week, the Devils will get their first crack at the Washington Capitals. Alex Ovechkin coming off now 900 career goals. Devils will be in Washington Saturday night in DC. And then the Devils will have 3 games next week, 2 of them against Atlantic Division foes that they've already played against. Devils, for the second time already, will be back in Tampa Bay against the Lightning. Then they will face off once again against the Florida Panthers, who have certainly continued their early season struggles, but that will be in Florida. Devils went 2-0 last year in Florida. And then they'll finish off much closer to home in the first regular season matchup of the Battle of the New Jersey Turnpike on the road in Philadelphia against the Flyers. And then the Devils will play their last 4 games of the month of November, home against the Detroit Red Wings, home against St. Louis Blues. Then they're in Buffalo Friday afternoon. And then Saturday night, they will once again play the Flyers, this time at the Rock. So that is really what we're looking ahead to, not just this week, but for the rest of the month of November. As far as predictions are concerned, I'm going to say the Devils are going to end up 2-1-0. I think that they're going to find a way to win tonight against the Islanders. I think that they're going to end up beating Chicago, but I think overall it's going to be a tough challenge. It's always a tough challenge against the Capitals. I know the Devils have had a lot more success against Washington over the last couple of years, but especially with it being in DC, I think the Devils are going to have a little bit of trouble there, and I think that they're not going to have as much success. But I could be wrong. I've been wrong numerous times already when it comes to predictions of games throughout this season already. But it starts with tonight as the Devils will look for already their 12th win of the year and look to sweep this 3-game homestand that they have with this Metro Division showdown against the Islanders. And on that note, Devils fans, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Devil's State of Mind podcast. As always, thank you guys so much for taking time to check out the episode. If you're here on YouTube and you like what you see, make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe, and also tell all of your friends to do the same. We are so close to 175 subscribers. Let's get there at the end of this week, right? So I only need 7 more subscribers. So make sure to subscribe if you have not already and tell all your friends to do the same. Also, hit the notification bell to get notified every time a new episode or even a clip comes out from the podcast here. Also, follow the podcast over on social media, Devil State of Mind on both Facebook and Instagram, and Devil State over on Twitter. Follow the podcast on TikTok, Neil.Villapiano. That's just my name with a period in the middle. And also follow my BlueSky as well for Devils updates and podcast updates over there. Also, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on all audio listening platforms: Apple, Spotify, Google, SoundCloud, all of those. And if you're on Apple or Spotify, do me a favor and leave a 5-star rating on either Apple or Spotify. Really helps continue to grow the podcast, get it out to even more Devils fans like yourself, and continue to make this the number one New Jersey Devils podcast out there. So, yeah, that's what I got for you. Thank you so much for checking out this episode, and we will see you in the next episode. Everyone, continue to be the awesome people that you are. And as I always say at the end of every episode, put those horns up, baby, and let's go, Devils.